Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopinda Vallabha Girivaradham Hari Jaya Gopinda Vallabha Girivaradham Hari Yashodandana Rajanarandana Yashodandana Rajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanatam Harim Yamuna Tira Vanatam Harim Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana Yamuna Tera Randana Hari Yamuna Tera Randana Hari Nayana Bhava Kundani Bhari Paramahamsa Vichaya Sutta Sattu Shishmachila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jayam Shripad Paramahamsa Vichaya Sutta Sattu Shishmachila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Guri Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Sri Rup Sri Sanatan Bhattar Raghunathi Jeev Gopal Bhattara Saraghunath Sadhu Goswami Prabhu ki Prem se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivadari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopal Gopi Gopinath Cham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Mathura Dham ki Jai, Mayapur Dham ki Jai, Jagannathpuri Dham ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Ganga Yamuni Devi ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki Jai, Sri Sri Gauritai ki Jai, Sri Sri Krishna Balaram ki Jai, Sri Radha Shyam Sundar ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Samavita Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the Sama-buddhir, all glories to the Sama-buddhir, all glories to Shiva and Chiguranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading from the Bhagavad-Gita as it is, 6th chapter. Text number 9 and 10, Jnana Yoga. So text number 9 does not have a purport, so I will read text number 9 and then together we will read text number 10. Suhṛn-mitrāry-udāsīna madhyastha-dveṣya-bandhuṣu sādhuṣv pāpeṣu sama-buddhir viśiṣyate. Translation: a person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. Text number 10. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rasi sthitam ekakiyata chittatma nirashira aparigraha yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stitah ekakiyat chittatma nirashira parigraha yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stitah ekakiyat chittatma nirashira parigraha Atmanam rahase sthitaha ekakiyata chitatma nirashera parigraha. Yogi, a transcendentalist, Yunjita, must concentrate in Krishna consciousness. Satatam, constantly, Atmanam, himself, by body, mind and self, Rahasi, in a secluded place, Sthita, being situated, Ekaki, alone, Yata Chitta Atma, always careful in mind, Nirashi, without being attracted by anything else, Aparigraha, free from the feeling of possessiveness. Translation of purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Purport. Krishna is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Paramatma and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness means, concisely, to be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized Supersoul are also partially Krishna conscious, because the impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna and the Supersoul. And the Supersoul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist, because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. His knowledge of the absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all of these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits, so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. All these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness. Because direct Krishna consciousness means self-abnegation, wherein there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way. Anasakta savishaya nyatarham upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastunah Mumukshu viparityago vairagyam palgu katyate. When one is not attached to anything but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. This is from Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion. A Krishna-conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he is always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness, how to reject things unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. He is always free, he is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental, and he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakasodhanmilitam Yanam Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Savadantikam Bandeyam Sri Guru Sri Yodabada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vichakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikakanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tanta Ganjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshari Vrishabhano Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the 6th chapter, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna about Jnana Yoga, meditating on the Supreme Lord, the process of Ashtanga Yoga. And so in the beginning of this chapter, Krishna is stressing the importance of controlling the mind. He told Arjuna that for one who cannot control his mind, whose mind is not controlled, the mind is his enemy, Shatru. And for one who has conquered his mind, who is in control of his mind, the mind is the best friend. And such a person is in contact with the Supreme Soul, with the Super Soul, with the Supreme Lord. And he's further explaining, so one has to try to elevate himself with the help of the mind. And here in these verses, he's explaining that A person who is properly situated, who has controlled his mind, who is in contact with the Supreme. And actually Prabhupada is explaining 3 transcendentalists are there. And this transcendentalist, they have controlled the mind and the senses, so they're transcendentally situated. They're on the spiritual platform, but then he's explaining, and also it is mentioned in the scriptures, Vadanti tattva vidastatvam yajkam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate, famous verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, that the learned scholars of the Vedic literatures, they have ascertained that the 3 stages of realization are there: Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. The impersonal aspect of the absolute truth, the Brahmajyoti, that is the first step, which is Krishna's effulgence, and the second is realizing the super soul in everyone's heart, who is also all-pervading in this world. And third, and that is the highest actually, the best of all yogis, that is he who is realizing Krishna or Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, realizing that actually we have a transcendental relationship with the Supreme, realizing they have to be always engaged in this transcendental loving service. So these are most advanced. And here, so in these verses, some of the symptoms of such persons are explained. Even it may be the yogi also, even those who are trying to merge in the Brahman. So because they are situated on the platform of the soul, they are equiposed. Sama-darshana, they have equal vision. So they will see everything, as explained before, the pebbles, stones or gold as the same. And they will see everything as part of the Supreme. So one who is transcendently situated is on the platform of the soul, Atma Tattva. He's understanding I'm spirit soul, and he's understanding that all the living beings, the embodied beings are there. So he's seeing the soul, not just the body. And then she understands that things of this material world, they are impermanent and they are not of ultimately great value. Even it may be gold. So of course gold can be used in the service of the Lord. So that is there, and so this, from one point of view, it is more important than pebbles and stones, but it is something material. Only if it is connected to Krishna, then it becomes spiritual. The transcendentalist, he has the proper vision, understanding. At the same time, as mentioned in scriptures and is in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, those who are ultimately perfectly situated, these are the devotees who understand Bhagavan, the Supreme Being, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Others, Brahmavadis or Paramatmavadis, their knowledge is not perfect and complete. So in text number 9, he's explaining that the transcendentalist regards all the su-hṛt. So su-hṛt means actually also friend. And here Prabhupada is explaining in the word for word the well-wishers, who are well-wishers by nature. Even you can see in Krishna's pastimes, it is there mentioned, Krishna has many friends, and they are divided in 4 categories. And there also it is explained su-hṛt, mitra, or su-hṛt or sakha. So sakha means also friend, and here it is mentioned mitra, benefactors with affection. And so it may be seen, it may be a little more elevated that su-hṛt is the mitra or sakha. And in Krishna's pastimes, so that is also explained, the 4 kinds. Su-hṛt, mitra or sakha, and then priyanama sakha, and paramprishta sakha. So Krishna has 4 friends of his same age. Vasudam, Sudam, Sridam, Kinkini. The Krishna's best friends. And then there are 8, they are Priyanama Sakha. They're a little younger than Krishna, but also very dear to Krishna. There's such a loving relationship there. So Ujjval, Arjun, Gandharv, and others are there who are very dear to Krishna. And then others are there, friends. Even as we know, Madhumangal is there and others. They have a friendly relationship. And Krishna, of course, is the best friend of everyone. And Krishna is always trying to help the conditioned souls so they may understand their transcendental nature. Of course, that is only possible for the embodied beings in the human form of life. Others, they don't have the possibility to understand anything about their identity. They cannot progress in spiritual life. Only if they are in the association of the devotees, the animals or birds and so on, if they are close to the devotees, then they can also benefit to some extent. They can get some prasadam, they can hear the sound of the holy names, and in this way they also benefited. And then in the next life they may become human beings, and then they may become devotees. So Krishna is the best friend of all, and is ultimately the greatest benefactor for the jivas. But then, as explained in these verses, the transcendentalists, the devotees, especially those who are pure devotees, those who are empowered by the Lord, those who are the embodiment of Krishna's mercy, the spiritual master, Krishna Kripa Sri Murti is the embodiment of Krishna's mercy and is there to help the conditioned souls. So they will always be friendly. Even there may be different persons in their exchanges in this world, but they will see all with an equal vision. So they will have their friends, and then so su-hṛt or mitra, so more close relationship even in our lives. So we may have some friends, with some we have a more close relationship, with others we have a less close relationship. But they are friends. And then of course family members are there. But then here it is explained, even the Ari enemies, like we know, Murari, Mura demon was there. Enemy was there, Mura demon. And Krishna, he is very merciful. And as we see in Krishna Lila and all incarnations of the Lord, and they establish dharma, and they protect and deliver the devotees. But even when they are annihilating the demons also benefited, because they are killed or subdued or controlled or defeated by the Supreme Lord, but are connected in this way. by the Supreme Lord, and then he will get some benefit. So Krishna is most merciful, but also the pure devotees who are agents of Krishna, they're also merciful, even sometimes more merciful than Krishna. They will not see any enemy. Even we know Yudhishthira Maharaj, it is mentioned, Ajata Shatru. There was no enemy to Yudhishthira Maharaj. He was not born Ajata Shatru. But still we can see that even his relatives, his cousin brothers, headed by Duryodhana, so they were giving so many difficulties. They wanted to kill the Pandavas. But Yudhishthira Maharaj, he didn't see them as enemies. He always saw them, oh, these are our relatives, they are our cousin brothers. So we have to be respectful towards them, we have to help them if they are in difficulty. So magnanimous, humble, tolerant, respectful. Although Duryodhana and his brothers, they wanted to kill the Pandavas, they were tolerating, and one time, and Duryodhana and his brothers and his men were in difficulty. They were defeated by some heavenly beings who had come to this world. Seeing them in difficulty, Yudhishthira told his brothers, we have to help our cousin brothers. Arjuna and Bhima, they were not ready. No, why? They are giving us so many difficulties. Even they are ready to kill us. They want to drive us out of the kingdom. They want to banish us. So why shall we help them? They were not ready. But then Yudhishthira was saying, but still, actually we are from the same family. They are our cousin brothers. Although there's some misunderstanding or some little fighting between us, but if another enemy is there, not from our family, then we should try to help them. So although they were unwilling, but because Yudhishthira was the elder brother, therefore they were obliged to help. And then they helped Duryodhana and his men. Duryodhana was, of course, because of his nature, which was, his nature was actually practically demonic nature. He couldn't appreciate that Yudhishthira was helping them. Actually even became angry, because he was actually embarrassed that although we are giving so many difficulties to the Pandavas, but still we were defeated, but now they helped us. So that is the magnanimity of a devotee, is extremely humble, tolerant and respectful and helpful, even if an enemy is there. It is also mentioned that if the enemy is coming to your house, for some reason, then you have to respect him when he comes and treat him just like a friend. That only a person who is highly advanced can do, who is not seeing the body, he's seeing the soul only. And just like even we know Jesus Christ was saying, don't hate the sin, don't hate the sinner, but you hate the sin. Because ultimately everyone is a servant of Krishna, everyone is spirit soul. And by nature, so the soul is pure, the soul is kind. Jivasopa Nityera Krishna Das, the Jiva is an eternal servant of Krishna or Vishnu. pure, has nothing to do with this material world by nature. And so, of course, just like the Supreme Lord, Krishna, he has so many transcendental qualities, unlimited, but 64 are mentioned. Similarly, the jiva, the pure soul, the servant of Krishna, he has also transcendental qualities, similar to Krishna's, but in minor quantity. But the embodied being who is bahirmukh, who is under the modes of material nature, averse towards the service of the Lord, so because he's covered by modes of material nature, and according to the modes of material nature, the perverted qualities are there, or there either some godly qualities may still be there, or there may be demonic qualities, according to the modes of material nature. One in the mode of passion and ignorance, so his qualities are demoniac, whereas those in the mode of goodness, they have godly qualities. And then from that platform it is easier to become transcendental, to become Krishna conscious. And then ultimately all the transcendental qualities will manifest. Whereas those in the mode of passion and ignorance, for them it is more difficult to give up these qualities and to develop good qualities. But if they take up the process of devotional service, then slowly but surely they become free from these demonic qualities. Also, Chanakya Pandit has quoted one verse, Matrivat parada reshu parada visholostavat sarvabhutatma bhuta yapashyati sauchyate. That one is considered Pandit, a learned person, so if he sees every woman as just like one's mother, and if he sees a lump of or somebody else's propriety, just like a lump of dirt, and who treats everyone as he would like to be treated, so such a person is a Pandit, or he has also equal vision, is properly situated. So he's saying everyone, friends, or those who are neutral, or those who are meditating, those who are envious, pious and the sinners, he will see all with an equal mind, because he's seeing the soul. And he's understanding that different persons are there in different situations according to the modes of material nature, but ultimately they have nothing to do with that. And then he's explaining how the yogi or the transcendentalist is engaged. Yogi yunjita satatam. So the yogi is, Prabhupada is explaining, is engaging his body, mind, and of course words are there in relationship with the Supreme. Tongue, man, vakya. So the body, mind, and the words are engaged in the Supreme. So the devotees are most exalted because they are engaged in devotional service. By serving, by seeing the Lord, hearing about the Lord, speaking about Krishna, engaging the hands and worshipping the Lord, or cleaning the temple and cooking for the Lord, and walking to the temple, to the holy places, or working for Krishna. And they're fixing their mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. And the intelligence is there, and so it's always choosing to serve Krishna. And the devotee is free, the transcendentalist is free from the false ego, identifying with this material world. As I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a Brahma Kshatriya. He's not thinking in this way. He's thinking, I'm spirit soul, I'm the eternal son of Krishna. Even the other transcendentalists, they also not identifying with the body. Then further on it is mentioned he should live in a secluded place. So that is recommended, because if one is together with materialistic persons, it will be difficult to focus on the Supreme Lord. Of course, the devotees who engage in devotional service, they're going also to the cities, or even as devotees, many they are not able to come to the holy dham and live in a secluded place, so they have to be amidst materialistic persons also. But the devotees, they make their apartment, their house, a temple. And then they can be engaged in the service of the Lord and Krishna service, and then they can tolerate the difficulties which are there of this material world. They will not be affected by their surroundings. But that, of course, requires a lot of strength and mercy. And therefore it is recommended to be in the association of the devotees. It is easier to be focused in the association of the devotees who are also engaged in devotional service. And so the Chitatma, Yata Chitatma, always careful in controlling the mind. The mind is there in this material world, actually causing so many difficulties to the embodied being. Kam, Krodh, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, these are coming from the material mind. Lusty desires and being greedy, becoming angry, being a loser, not knowing what to do and what not to do, and being mad or envious of others. These are all coming from the material mind. And the mind is accepting and rejecting things. But the material mind always wants to be engaged in sense gratification. Therefore one has to try to control the mind and fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. One has to train the mind with one's intelligence and praying to Krishna, to Hari, Guru and the Vaishnavas, so we may have the strength and be absorbed in spiritual activities with all the senses. And then we may be able to control the mind by the mercy of Krishna. By our own endeavor we cannot control the mind. But we have to engage our senses in the service of the Lord. We have to try to fix the mind, and we have to pray to Guru Garanga Krishna. Then we may be successful in controlling the mind by Krishna's mercy. But we have to endeavor. If we are not endeavoring, then we can never control the mind. And Krishna is merciful and he wants to give his mercy. But for this we have to be very sincere, serious and endeavoring constantly. Also it is mentioned here that the devotee, he should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. One should not desire things for one's own self. One should not try to have so many possessions for one's own self, for ourselves, or extended for the family. But one should desire to serve Krishna. One should understand what is Krishna's desire, what is Sri Guru's desire, what they want me to do. And let Krishna's desire, my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada's desire be my desire. But then even when we engage in the service of the Lord, then we may have some transcendental desires, how to serve Krishna. And that is all right. Because also we cannot be completely, it is normal to have desires, but we should desire to serve Krishna and then ultimately what Krishna wants, but then there's some little independence is there. We may also serve, if we are surrendered, we serve in one way, or we may serve in another way. And that is all right. Some little, actual real freedom is there when we are engaged in Krishna Seva. And then we have some liberty there. And then feelings of possessiveness. We should understand that everything belongs to Krishna. Krishna is the proprietor of everything. And by Krishna's mercy, in this material world, we may have some wealth or some possessions. But we should ultimately know that everything belongs to Krishna, and that only temporarily we have some possession, some wealth. But it may go any time. But then in regards to Krishna's property, everything belongs to Krishna, so we should try to protect Krishna's property. Like if there is a temple there, the deities are there, we should protect that. So bhuktarang yagitapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shanti marichati. So we can be peaceful if you understand that Krishna is the ultimately the supreme enjoyer of all our activities. Yagya, tapa, and is a possessor of everything. Sarvaloka maheshwaram, suridam sarvabhutanam, surit, surinam, as here also, is the best friend of all the living entities. So if we have this proper understanding, then we will be peaceful. And then we are properly situated, and then we can realize Krishna's Sarup, Krishna's transcendental form. And then we can realize our true transcendental spiritual form, our identity, spiritual identity. So the highest stage of spiritual understanding, that is known as samadhi. Samadhi. Dhi means the intelligence, the consciousness. Sama, again here also equiposed. The consciousness, the mind, the intelligence are fixed on the Supreme, and therefore having equal vision, equiposed. And then automatically the senses will be properly engaged in Krishna's service. And one will understand everything clearly, and one will know what to do and what not to do, what is favorable, what is unfavorable. Also Srila Prabhupada has quoted 2 verses from Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Devotion. So, anasakta-viṣaṃ-yatayam upayunjataha Krishna nirbandha, Krishna sambandha. So if one is understanding that everything, Krishna sambandha, everything is related to Krishna. Krishna is everything and everything is in Krishna. And then one is unattached to material things, and then one will engage everything in Krishna Seva, and then actually everything becomes transcendental. And that is proper renunciation. Even one may have so much wealth and so many facilities, possessions, so to say, but properly situated devotee will use everything in Krishna Seva. So he's truly renounced. Although he may be household, he may have a house, a wife and family, but is a renounce. Vairagya is there because he's understand his position that I'm the servant of Krishna and is using everything in Krishna Seva. Whereas somebody else, he may be rejecting everything, like the Mayavadis. No, I don't want any money, I don't need money, I don't need this, I don't need that. And they may live very simple. And they may live in the forest or in the Himalayas, in the mountains, and have practically no possessions. So, but they do not know their relationship with Krishna. And therefore their renunciation is known as Phalgu Vairagya. It is ultimately not complete. It is actually useless, Phalgu. It is also known as Markat Vairagya. So just like the monkey also doesn't have much cloth. So one may say, oh, the monkey is quite renounced, he doesn't have any cloth, he doesn't have so many possessions. He's living in one tree on one day and another tree on the next day. So see, he seems to be very much renounced, but actually is not. And usually the male monkeys after the female monkeys. And he may have many female monkeys. So even we may see sometimes some persons, they may show that they are renunciants, but then they are keeping some relation with women. So that is Phalgu Vairagya, Markat Vairagya. But one who is, even though he may have so many possessions, he may be household, but if everything is engaged in Krishna Seva, then his renunciation is proper. That is real renunciation. And such a person is respected. So ultimately, if one is always engaged in Krishna Seva and using everything in Krishna Seva and having this equal vision and being humble, tolerant and respectful and not only thinking about himself but also thinking about the welfare of others, sama-buddhiḥ is engaged in helping others by giving them knowledge, by telling them to chant the holy names, by giving them prasadam. So in this way, so devotee is the greatest of all yogis, one who is in Krishna consciousness. Everyone else, so is not completely perfect and properly situated, and mostly they are thinking about themselves. So Krishna is very clearly explaining to Arjuna, and so we are very fortunate to be in the Krishna consciousness movement under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee of Krishna, of Mahaprabhu, of Radharani, and so he has shown us how to make advancement in spiritual life. And so we are very fortunate, so we should try our level best to become more and more absorbed in Krishna consciousness and to become pure devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. So we have a little prasadam for everyone.